All right, I think we are live. Let me just see if I see us on. Hey everyone, welcome. If you're joining us, Jacob and I are about to get started in just a few moments here. Just going to test a few more settings.
I see us broadcasting on KGM's.
Perfect. I am going to let everyone on Threads know that we are chatting. And of course, this video will be up on YouTube afterwards if you miss it. All right, we've told everyone on Threads that we're here.
We are here.
We're here. All right, great. Jacob, great to have you on the channel today. This is the first of what we're hoping will be a regular series on producing theater in New York. And you and I are currently working together on a project, which I want to talk all about today. But first, let's just go back a second. How did you get your start in producing?
That's a great question. I like to say that I'm creative but not artistic. So I can't dance, I can't sing, I can't act. I have a degree in entrepreneurship and marketing. I'm not a huge fan of numbers, but I understand them. And I've found that a lot of artists don't. And so I kind of realized that there's an opportunity to work with some incredible artists as their business mind, and let them focus on the creative end. So I started with a photographer named Mark Mann, who's a brilliant portrait photographer. He will admit he is the worst business person in the world. Um, so I kind of went in as his producer to help him out, and over the course of 3 years, I helped him create a YouTube channel. I helped him produce a coffee table book, um, and from there, I really enjoyed that and kind of just wanted to get more involved in the live theater. Um, Prior to that, I was working in venture capital, and I was missing my creative outlets. So on the side, I was investing in entertainment, in theater, film, and TV. But I really wanted to go all in. So I made the smart decision on March 1st, 2020, to quit my venture capital job to
Hmm.
go all in on entertainment. And 12 days later, the entertainment industry imploded. Thank you to COVID-19.
Yes, it did. So you have a degree in entrepreneurship. That's one I haven't heard before, but that's great.
Yeah, it's made up.
Well, it's real. You have
I
a real
mean,
degree.
yeah, it's a real degree, but it's, yes, made up thing.
All right, a real degree in entrepreneurship. You then started producing for this dancer that you know, choreographer, and you helped him produce a book.
No, for a photographer, not a dancer.
Photographer, sorry. So a photographer who
Yeah,
was taking photos of dancers.
yes.
Yes. So you helped him produce this book. And from that experience, you were like, well, I just did a book. Might as well do theater.
Um, yes. So to launch the book is called, here's the book. The book is called Movement at the Still Point. It is a dance book with 142 of the top dancers in New York, ranging from Misty Copeland to Cheetah Rivera, flamenco tap, um, modern, contemporary, ballet, all of the above. People that are at the top of their class. And in order to launch this book, I decided that I was going to host or I was going to produce a one night performance at the Joyce Theater in New York. Um, Probably not the smartest idea, but
And when was
I
this,
didn't.
Jacob?
This was in April of 2023.
Okay.
So I didn't know what I didn't know at the time, but I knew that I didn't know a lot. So I was able to surround myself with people that did know. And we ended up doing an incredible one night performance with 40-ish of the dancers that are in the book. Um, it wasn't sold out until like the afternoon of the show, which was very nerve-wracking. But we did it, and it was a huge success. And I woke up the next morning and I was thinking back, I was like, oh, that was actually really fun. It was miserable, but like a fun miserable. And I decided that that's kind of what I think I want to do with the rest of my life is make these shows and allow artists to perform and show their crafts to the world. And that's when I kind of decided that I was going to go from investor to creative producer.
Because you had been investing in shows before.
Yeah, prior to that, I've been investing in theater since 2014.
And were there
Um,
aspects of investing in theater that you found interesting or frustrating?
yeah, I mean, I've been around all sorts of celebrities. I don't get impressed by them. They're just humans to me. Like they eat breakfast the same way I eat breakfast. They might have a chef that can make it. I have to make mine myself. That doesn't impress me. So there's a lot of people that invest in the shows because they want to get close to celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
Where unless you're investing a large amount, that doesn't even really happen. You get to go to parties, it's fun. You can tell people you're a co-producer, you're Tony nominated. I happen to have a Tony nomination. I don't often lead with that unless someone's being a jerk, and then I say, "Well, I am a Tony nominated producer as well." So shush. Um, but I don't often lead with that. And I think being just writing a check and not knowing where the money's being spent is a challenge. Um, but coming from the venture capital world, like I didn't really know much where the money was being spent there either, except for my like quarterly meetings with them. So I was kind of used to that. And I think there were a lot of parallels between venture capital and investing. Um, Most of the numbers are made up or best guesses. Um, they're usually always wrong. And so you kind of have to use your gut and intuition to suss out where you think the real numbers
Yeah.
are and where you think they're really going to hit. Um, and one of the major differences is usually in theater, you'll know within a year or two of your investment, whether it's going to be successful or not. In venture capital, it could take up to 10 years for you to get an exit or for them to close. So the investment horizon is much shorter. There's also things you can do in the market, assuming the show is good, to help change the perception without having to spend tens of millions of dollars to acquire new customers like you would in venture capital
Right.
or even 100 million.
And I will say, I would say we've definitely had shows, more than one, where the first year prospects for a financial return were not looking great, but within a 10-year period had recouped because shows can have financial streams of revenue long after they close in New York. It actually might be a good topic for a future video about how shows can continue to, at least the mother company, the LLC, can generate revenue in the years after a show closes.
I
Um,
also have a theory that musicals have more sources of potential revenue than plays,
I
and
think a
we can
lot
talk about
do.
that.
Yeah, a lot do. But look, there are very successful plays out there that continue to have licensing and subsidiary rights income for years. But let's get back to you for a second. So
Yeah.
you are investing in shows. It's a good experience. It's a frustrating experience. You're not seeing all of the data. You help this photographer produce a book. You launch that book by producing a concert at the Joyce, and you wake up the next day and you're like, this producing thing, I want to keep doing it. How did you go from that to, and this is me leading into the show that you're currently producing, Biz. So how did you go from that feeling the next day to finding Biz, and what was that process of discovery like for you?
Um, so I didn't I didn't have an idea of what I wanted to work on. In fact, for a while I told people I didn't want to work on my own show. And and just like most things in life, when you're not looking for it, you're gonna find something.
Hmm.
And so I saw um, one of the brochures for the Joyce had an interesting show coming up in December called Biz, and it was billed as a tap dance beatbox show. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I then saw that one of the dancers in my book, Caleb Teicher, I thought was in it, but it turns out Caleb created it. So when I got there, I was a little upset because I really want to see Caleb perform because they're an incredible tap dancer. And so I was sitting there like, oh man, I'm not going to see Caleb. That's a bummer. But then all of a sudden, the show starts, and I'm just like blown away. It's like nothing I've ever seen before, and I've seen a lot. And the ability to get the multiple demographics that are at the Joyce to all like the same thing is pretty impressive, where you have a lot of people in their 70s that are used to watching modern or contemporary dance and ballet, bopping their heads along to this hip hop, beatbox, and tap dance rhythmic show. You have kids going crazy because they're just in awe. And so part of the show, I was just watching the audience. And after the show, because I knew Caleb, I texted them and said, "Congrats! Like this is a huge thing. I'm really excited for you." And the next day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And so I texted Caleb again saying, "Hey, I know you're an artist, so like tell me to go away if this is not what you want, but I think there's something commercial here, and I'd really love to chat with you about it." And they were very open. They're like, "I agree. I I had the same thought, wasn't sure what to do with it, or where to start." And I kind of BS'd my way saying like, well, let's do it. I can help you. This was the first thing that I'm doing. I was a little open about that after we started conversations, but I was like, yeah, let me help you out with that. Like, I know what to do. I didn't. I learned very quickly though. Um, and so that's kind of where we started our 10-month journey from December 2023 until October 2024 of negotiating rights agreements and all of that kind of stuff until I owned the rights to the show.
So in so it was December 2024 where you see
23.
23, right? You see the show. So you'd already had this inclination, I want to start producing in New York City commercial theater. But you sort of let yourself off the hook on discovering what that show is. You go to the show, you're blown away by it, and you say, this is the show. You then spend the next 10 months trying to acquire the rights to produce it. I'd love to talk about that, but before we talk about that specifically, and obviously there's only so many specifics we want to share today, but you obviously need to find a production attorney. Did you even know that was who you needed to hire to help you in this? How did you go from I need to acquire the rights to, yes, what I need to get that is a production attorney?
Um, I knew I needed an entertainment lawyer. I didn't know what they would be called or who they were. Luckily, I have a lot of friends in the industry. So I pretty much texted a bunch of them and said, who is the best lawyer you hate going up against?
Hmm.
And a lot of them came back with the same answer. And so I ended up going with that lawyer because I wanted someone who I knew would fight for me. And people were afraid, not afraid, but like, they're like, oh, I have to go up against that person. This is going to be a rough one in a good way.
Yeah. And what was the process like of interviewing potential attorneys? I assume you met with more than just one.
I met with a few. I think it was a vibe check for me. I wanted to make sure that they were a stand-up people, like good humans. Life's too short to deal with jerks, to put it nicely. But so I did a vibe check. I wanted to make sure we get along, like hear their story, what they worked on, and I asked around. I asked a lot of people that work with them, and that was really the key. And then I also didn't want to go with the cheapest attorney because while all lawyers are expensive, I also am a firm believer of you get what you pay for. Um, which is why when my sister told me to get a cheaper lawyer after I was complaining about paying their bill, I was like, absolutely not. Like I'm paying them this much for a reason.
What was some of the advice you were getting from those attorneys as you were interviewing them? Were there things that you were hearing that you're like, ah, that's really important, I want to clock that, or things that you were hearing that you felt uncertain about, you didn't agree with? Like what were you hearing in those early interviews?
A lot of it was around pricing. It wasn't like I thought it was going to cost me $100,000 to license the rights to a show. I have zero idea what a rights agreement costs, what any of this costs. Um, After a while, the few people I interviewed were like, "No, it should be around 2,500." And I was like, "Oh, wait, I could do this myself then. I don't need to like raise money before I even get the rights."
Right.
Um, it turned out to be a little bit more expensive because of a very complicated thing, but that's for a different time. Um, but it was still pretty easily attainable from an initial perspective. And so I think for me, it was like the education around what I needed from the lawyer and what I didn't, and finding the lawyer that wasn't going to say, like, yeah, you need to do all of this. And the ones that were like, well, you could do this, but you don't really need to do this. And like, we could do it for you, but it's going to be much cheaper if you just do it. And it's super easy to do. So, like, here's how to do it. And that's how I'm saving money by using an expensive lawyer who's nice and says like, you file your LLC yourself so that we don't charge you for it
Right.
because it's a very easy thing to do and simple things like that.
I feel like that's one of the things that we're always working with clients on is how much do you want to take on versus how much do you want to pass on to us? And there's no right answer. And for different clients, that sort of, pendulum swings in various different ways. But um, I definitely think being resourceful, really, no matter what it is in life, whether it's producing a show or trying to redo your kitchen, but the more of your own resources you can bring to the table while surrounding yourself with professionals, the more money you can potentially save.
Totally, totally agree. And um, I'm a firm believer in doing a job once before you ask someone else to do it. Um, I tried to write a rights agreement. It was not legally binding in any way, shape, or form. But I tried to understand everything that goes into it. I missed a large chunk, which is why you have lawyers. But even in I did a workshop for the show. I decided to do the laundry instead of hiring someone to do the laundry for the wardrobe. I now know it takes me 3 hours to steam 10 costumes. That's 3 hours of my life I could have hired someone to do in less than an hour, and it's worth it for me. Um, but now I know. So now when I get a bill for a costume person, I'm like, okay, that was worth it. I know it was worth it. Um, I forgot what your question was, but I hope I answered it.
I think you did. All right, so you bring on the production council team. You spend 10 months acquiring the rights, working through that deal. I should say to everyone who's listening, doesn't always take 10 months. I would say normally it's a lot less, but it's a long process because you are optioning the rights to present a show. There's a lot of revenue streams to contemplate, lots of ways that the author is going to get, or author group is going to get compensated. So there's a lot to talk there, and you want to make sure everyone on both sides of the table is comfortable with the agreement and what rights they're assigning to you as the lead producer and what rights they're retaining for themselves. And so there is a lot to talk through. And I think, by and large, as a blanket statement, I think the more that both sides, both parties have gone through this process before, the more equipped they are to go through it. I think sometimes when someone is perhaps having their first piece optioned, it is harder for them to get to a yes on a lot of the points. They're not used to agreeing to so many of their rights being licensed, or so much of what they've created now being in control or joint control or mutual control of somebody else. And that is a process that they have to step through themselves. So it can be hard. I think what's nice about theater ultimately, and I think it's important to remind folks of this, in Hollywood, predominantly scripts are purchased outright. So a studio will come along and say, Jacob, I'm going to purchase your script from you, and I will now be able to make every decision about the future of the script, whether I make the show, what kinds of licensing I want to do with the show downstream. But in theater, the construct that we have come to on 99.9% of the shows that producers license is that the authors maintain ownership in it. And when you option the script to produce it in New York, you are optioning it for a finite period of time. And you need to repeatedly and every so often demonstrate that you are continuing to move that show forward, either through achieving certain milestones or paying additional option payments, or a combination of both. And even once you produce the show in New York City, you only then have a continuing option to keep producing the show in future territories for a limited period of time. And once you stop doing all of the things that allow you to keep the rights to produce the show, they fully revert back to the author team. So you never own the show. The author group always owns the show. And I think that's something, by and large, very special about the way we produce shows here in New York in commercial theater, because as long as you're producing the show, you do have a partner in the author group.
Totally.
So that was a very long way of trying to roughly explain, without going into any detail, why it took you 10
I
months to
I can
option the
say
rights. Yeah, what can
I
you
can
say?
say we spent 2 weeks negotiating around one word in a sentence. I don't remember what the word
I
was,
was just going to
but
ask if you remembered.
it it drastically changed the meaning of the sentence. And the opposing counsel, I'll say opposing counsel because it was a contentious 2 weeks, was saying that the word didn't actually change the meaning of the sentence, and my counsel said it drastically changes the meaning of the sentence. Um, to the point where I was like, what do we do? And I ended up calling one of the creators and saying, hey, what's the deal with this word? And they were unclear what I was even talking about. So I pretty much just said, can you just ask your lawyer to like stop wasting time on this word? They did, and the lawyer stopped. So I can't even remember what the issue was, but like it definitely drastically changed the meaning of the sentence and would have decreased my capabilities, I think, in future productions. Um, so I'm glad that my lawyer was like, no, we're not giving in on this one.
Good. I'll just say for those of you who are joining Jacob and I today, if you have any questions about producing in New York, about optioning the rights, working with an attorney, please leave them in the comments below. We will try to get to them roughly in real time. So feel free to drop comments if you are joining us today live on the stream. If you're joining us after the stream and you're watching this after it's already been posted, feel free to leave us some comments in the comments section below. We'll try to answer them either in a future live stream that Jacob and I do, or maybe a future video that I record for the channel. All right, so it takes you 10 months to acquire the rights. Anything else you want to just say about the process of working with a production attorney or acquiring the rights that you think could be important for someone who is new to producing to understand?
Question everything, just so you can understand it for the next time. A lot of things are done specific ways because that's just how they've been done for the last 100 years. It doesn't mean they're the best way, but oftentimes people are hesitant to change them because they don't want to set a precedent for other things just in case something goes wrong. Um, it took us a while to convince production council to let us use DocuSign for our investment docs. Um, the industry just sends you a PDF, you print it out, you sign it, and you scan it and send it back in. Um, but that was like, why? There's no reason for that. Um, so things like that, ask questions, just be conscious that every question you ask will cost you money. So maybe like compile all your questions until you have like a list and then sit down and ask them. Um, ask other people. I was very open with some other friends while buying the rights, saying like, "Hey, do you think this is fair? Like, have you seen this in a contract before?" Um, and I think for the most part, as long as they're trusted people, you can share a good amount. Um, because once you're in negotiations, like, yes, someone, oh, you also can't really tell anyone what the show is. That's this trick because even if you trust them, there are snakes in every garden,
Hmm.
and if they think the show is really cool and hear that you're trying to option it, they might come in and say, "No, I'm going to option it instead." And then you put all this money and time into something, and if they offer a better deal, like I don't blame the creator for going with someone with a bet for a better deal, but that person would be dead to me, whoever stole it. But um, so like you have to be careful how much you share, and that can kind of segue into how I went about with GMs, finding a GM if you want, um, where I kind of reached out to them and was like, I have a show, can't tell you much about it until I have the rights. Let's talk.
I do want to pick that up. Here's what I think I'd like to propose, Jacob. I really like chatting with you today. We are just getting started on working through live production here on KGM YouTube channel. So maybe that's a good cliffhanger for the next time that you and I chat. Today really was a great conversation about how you came to work with a production attorney, how you acquire the rights, what that process is like. And maybe next time we can pick up with how you came to hire a general manager and why that general manager is
Absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely.
Great. Jacob, where can people learn more about Biz?
That's a great question. You can email me at Jacob at Jacob-Levy, Levy.com. Um, our website is not up yet, but it will be soon-ish. Um, and other than that, just keep an eye out. We might be changing the name of the show soon, so just look for a tap dance beatbox show. We do have the URL, that Tap Dance Beatbox Show, so that'll be a good source regardless of the name. Um, and I do need to put that website up. We just haven't done it yet. So you can email me, follow me on Instagram, JALEVY7 on Instagram, DM me, reach out. Happy to chat.
All right, you guys heard it here first. If you have questions for Jacob that we didn't address today, you can reach out to him, slide into his DMs, send him an email. Jacob, we're going to be chatting a lot more. So the idea here is that we're going to be following a lot of your process over the next few months as we launch this show here in New York. So it's going to be a real inside producer's perspective about producing in New York, all of the various stages. Obviously, acquiring the rights, step number one. Step number two, hire a GM. That'll be next episode. Jacob, thank you so much for joining us today and looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks, Daniel. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too. Take care.
Bye.